The Essentials of Human Communication. After reading this chapter, you should understand common myths, models of communication, major principles, the role of culture in human communication, and define communication competence. Preview: why communication is important in our lives and its function. Of all the knowledge and skills you have, these concerning communication are among your most important and useful. Your communication ability will influence how effectively you live your personal and professional life. It will influence your effectiveness as a friend and lover. It will often make the difference between getting a job and not getting it. Your communication skills will determine your influence and effectiveness as a group member and your emergence as a group leader. Your communication skills will increase your ability to communicate information and influence the attitudes and behaviors of others in a variety of public speaking situations. The first section introduces human communication, beginning with skills and forms of human communication and some of the popular but erroneous beliefs that can get in the way of effective communication. What are some common myths? Myths about human communication. A good way to begin your study of human communication is to examine just a few of the popular but erroneous beliefs about communication, many of which are contradicted by research and theory. Understanding these myths and why they are false will help eliminate potential barriers and pave the way for more effective and efficient learning about communication. Myth number 1, practice makes perfect. Practice may help make your communication perfect if you practice the right habits, but if you practice bad habits, you're likely to grow less rather than more effective. Consequently, it's important to learn and practice the principles of effectiveness. Myth number 2, people in close relationships don't need to be explicit. Actually, no. People aren't mind readers, and to expect them to be sets up barriers to open and honest communication. Myth 3, conflict is a sign of trouble. Conflict is actually inevitable. It's going to happen in relationships and in groups. If the conflict is managed effectively, however, it may actually benefit the individuals and the relationship. The next myth, people are born with good communication skills. Like good communicators, leaders are not born, they're made. You'll develop leadership abilities as you learn the principles of human communication. And leaders do not just become leaders, they have to work hard. And good communication skills is part of a learned skill. So this is where you can improve. Okay, the last one is fear of speaking is detrimental. Well, actually, that's a myth. Most speakers are nervous, and to be perfectly honest, you're probably not going to learn from this book or this course to eliminate what is commonly called stage fright or communication apprehension. But you can learn to manage your fear, making it work for you rather than against you. You can learn, and this is crucial, to become a more effective speaker, regardless of your current level of anxiety. Forms of human communication. Interpersonal communication is communication you have with yourself when you talk with, learn about, and judge yourself. Interpersonal communication is communication with somebody else, friends, lovers, family members, colleagues. Communication that you establish, maintain, sometimes destroy, and sometimes repair in personal relationships. Interviewing is a form of interpersonal communication that proceeds by question and answer. When you're looking for a job, when you're at a party, it could be social and informal. Small group communication. A team communication is communication among groups, say 5 to 10 people. We'll be doing a little bit of this, small group communication. Public communication is communication between a speaker and an audience. You'll be giving a few presentations this semester. Computer-mediated communication is a general term that includes all forms of communication between people that takes place through some kind of computer, whether it's on your smartphone, internet. It includes email, blogging, smartphones, Facebook. I'm sure you're familiar with that, Google and Twitter. Mass communication refers to communication from one source to many receivers who may be scattered throughout the world. Newspapers, magazines, radio, television, and film are the major mass media. What are common models? Sources and receivers. The source is the speaker, and the receiver is the listener. Messages. Communication messages take many forms and are transmitted or received through one or more sensory organs or combination of them. You communicate verbally with words and non-verbally without words. Your meaning or intentions are conveyed with words and with clothes you wear, the way you walk, and the way you smile. Everything about you communicates a message. Feed-forward messages. Feed-forward is the information you provide before sending your primary messages. It reveals something about the message to come and includes, for example, the preface or table of content of a book. Pre-forward or feed-forward may be verbal. Wait until you hear this one, or non-verbal, a prolonged pause or hands motioning for silence to signal that an important message is about to be spoken. This is feed-forward messages. Feedback messages. When you send a message, say in speaking to another person, you always hear yourself. That is, you get feedback from your own messages. You hear what you say, you feel the way you move, you see what you write. This is called feedback messages. Meta messages. A meta message is a message that refers to another message. It is communication about communication. For example, remarks, that statement is false, or do you understand what I'm trying to tell you? Refer to communication and are therefore meta-communicational. Nonverbal behavior may also be meta-communicational. So that is meta-communicational. Workplace messages. In workplace organizations, messages are then classified in terms of their direction. Upward communication consists of messages sent from the lower levels of hierarchy to the upper levels. Downward consists of messages from the higher levels to the lower levels. Lateral communication refers to messages between equals. Grapevine communication messages don't follow any of the formal hierarchical lines of communication established in an organization. Rather, they seem to have a life of their own. Communication contexts. Physical. Physical context is the tangible or concrete environment, the room, park, auditorium. You don't talk the same way at a noisy football game as you do at a quiet funeral. Cultural. The cultural context involves the lifestyles, beliefs, values, behavior, and communication of a group. It is the rules of a group of people for considering something right or wrong. Social psychological context has to do with the status relationships among speakers, the formality of the situation, the norms of group or organization. You don't talk the same way in the cafeteria as you would at a formal dinner at your boss's house. Temporal context is a message, it's the message's position within a sequence of events. You don't talk the same way after someone tells you about the death of a close relative as you do after someone reveals that they have won the lottery. Channel. Channel communication is the vehicle or medium through which the message is passed. Communication rarely takes place over only one channel. Rather, 2, 3, or 4 channels may be used simultaneously. In face-to-face conversation, for example, you speak and listen, vocal channel. But you also gesture and receive signals visually, visual channel. You also emit and smell odors, olfactory channel, and often touch one another. This is tactile channel. These are all types of communication, and they're called channel. The last one, noise. Noise is anything that interferes with your receiving a message. Physical noise, physiological noise, psychological noise, and semantic noise. Semantic noise and psychological may be ones that confuse you, so I'm going to address those. Major principles of communication. It is purposeful. You communicate for purpose. Some motivation leads you to communicate. When you speak or write, you're trying to send some message and to accomplish some goal. Although different cultures emphasize different purposes and motives, 5 general purposes seem relatively common to most, if not all, forms of communication. To learn, to acquire knowledge of others, the world, and yourself, to relate, to form relationships with others, to interact with others as individuals, to help, to assist others by listening, offering solutions, to influence, to strengthen or change the attitudes or behaviors of others, to play, to enjoy the experience of the moment. Communication involves choices. Throughout your communication life and each communication interaction, you're presented with choice points, moments when you have to make a choice as to whom you communicate with, what you say, what you don't say, how you phrase what you want to say, and so on. This course and text aim to give you reasons grounded in communication theory and research for the varied choices you'll be called upon to make in your communication interactions. The course also aims to give you the skills you'll need to execute these well-reasoned choices. It is ambiguous. Ambiguity is the condition in which something can be interpreted in more than one way. The first type, language ambiguity, is created by words that can be interpreted differently. In formal time, terms offer good examples. Soon, right away, in a minute, early, late, similar terms can be understood differently by different people. The terms are ambiguous. A more interesting type of ambiguity is grammatical ambiguity. You can get a feel for this type of ambiguity by trying to paraphrase, rephrase your words, and so on. Communication involves content and relationship dimensions. Communication exists on at least 2 levels: a message referring to something external to both speaker and listener, or to the relationship between speaker and listener. These 2 aspects are referred to as content and relationship dimensions of communication. Communication has a power dimension. Power refers to your ability to influence or control the behaviors of another person. Your power influences the way you communicate, and the way you communicate influences the power you wield. Research has identified 6 types of power: legitimate, referent, reward, coercive, expert, and information or persuasion. Communication is punctuated. Communication events are continuous transactions that have no clear-cut beginning or ending. As a participant in or an observer of communication, you divide this continuous circular process into causes and effects, or stimuli and responses. The punctuation of communication is the segmenting of the continuous stream of communication into smaller parts. It is inevitable, irreversible, and unrepeatable. Inevitability. Communication is inevitable. That is, in interactional situations, it is always taking place, even when a person may not intend or want to communicate. To understand the inevitability of communication, think about a student sitting in the back of a classroom with an expressionless face, perhaps staring out the window. Although the student might claim not to be communicating with the instructor may derive a variety of messages from this behavior. Irreversibility. Another all-important attribute of communication is irreversibility. Once you say something or click send on your email, you cannot uncommunicate the message. You can, of course, try to reduce its effects. You can say, for example, I really didn't mean what I said. But regardless of how hard you try to negate or reduce the effects of a message, the message itself, once it has been received, cannot be taken back. It's irreversible. Unrepeatability. Finally, communication is unrepeatable. A communication act can never be duplicated. The reason is simple. Everyone is constantly changing. As a result, you can never recapture the exact same situation, frame of mind, or relationship dynamics that defined a previous communication act. The importance of culture, demographic changes. Whereas one time the United States was a country largely populated by Europeans, it's now greatly influenced by the enormous number of new citizens from Latin America, South America, Africa, and Asia, and so on. With these changes have come different customs and the need to understand and adapt to new ways of looking at communication. Sensitivity to cultural differences. As As a people, we've become increasingly sensitive to cultural differences. U.S. society has moved from an assimilationist perspective, the idea that people should leave their native culture behind and adapt to their new native culture, or their new culture, rather, to a view that values cultural diversity. People should retain their native cultural ways. At the same time, the ability to interact effectively with members of other cultures often translates into financial gain and increased employment opportunities. Economic interdependence. Today, most countries are economically dependent on one another. Our economic lives depend on our ability to communicate effectively across borders and cultures. Communication technology. Technology has made intercultural interaction easy, practical, and inevitable. It's common to have social network friends from different cultures, and these relationships require a new way of looking at communication and culture. Cultural specific nature of communication. Still another reason culture is so important is that communication competence is cultural specific. As we'll see throughout this chapter, what proves effective in one culture may prove ineffective in another. Dimensions of culture. Because of its importance in all forms of human communication, culture is given a prominent place in this text, and theories and research findings that bear on culture and communication are discussed throughout. Among these discussions are the 7 major dimensions of culture that are listed here. Uncertainty avoidance, the degree to which a culture values predictability. In high uncertainty avoidance cultures, predictability and order are extremely important. In low uncertainty avoidance cultures, risk-taking and ambiguity are tolerated more easily. Masculinity, femininity. The extent to which cultures embrace traditionally masculine characteristics, such as ambition and assertiveness, or embrace traditionally feminine characteristics, such as caring and nurturing others. Power distance. The way power is distributed throughout the society. In high power distance cultures, there is a great power difference between those in authority and others. In low power distance cultures, power is distributed more evenly. Individualism, collectivism. A culture's emphasis on the importance of the individual or of the group. Individualist cultures value qualities such as self-reliance, independence, and individual achievement. Collectivist cultures emphasize social bonds, the primacy of the group, and conformity to the larger social group. High and low context. The extent to which information is seen as embedded in the context or tacitly known among members. In high context cultures, information is part of the context and does not have to be verbalized explicitly. In low context cultures, information is made explicit and little is taken for granted. Indulgence and restraint. The relative emphasis a culture places on the gratification of desires or having fun and enjoying life, indulgent cultures, as opposed to cultures which emphasize the curbing of these desires, restraint cultures. Last, long and short-term orientation. The degree to which a culture teaches an orientation that promotes the importance of future rewards, long-term orientation, versus cultures that emphasize the importance of immediate rewards. These cultures also differ in the view of the workplace. Organizations in long-term oriented cultures look to profits in the future. Managers or owners and workers in such cultures share the same values and work together to achieve common good. Organizations in short-term oriented cultures, on the other hand, look to more immediate rewards. Managers and workers are very different in their thinking and in their attitudes about work. What is ethnocentrism? I'd like you to think about this and try to answer this. I'm going to give you a moment. Okay, did you break the word apart? Ethno, meaning ethnicity, cent, meaning center, and ism is a belief, a noun. So when you're ethnocentric, you probably look at your own ethnicity instead of others. You tend to view the world based on how you see the world from your ethnic background. That is ethnocentrism. Cultural competence, what is it? It refers to your knowledge and understanding of how communication works. It refers to your ability to use communication effectively. The competent communicator thinks critically and mindfully. It is someone who is culturally sensitive. It is a competent communicator who is ethical. The competent communicator is an effective listener. Take a minute and think about somebody that you might know who has cultural competence. Also, ask yourself, are you culturally competent? Or what areas could you improve on? Where is she from? What language does she speak? Is she gay or straight? What religion does she practice? What assumptions do you have of this woman? This is what we're going to be talking about in this first chapter, about ethnocentrism, about cultural competence. Okay, let's think about cultural competence. Where is she from? What language does she speak? Is she gay or straight? What culture? What religion? Is she married? All of these assumptions, we might walk into a situation and say, oh, she is from here, or she thinks this. What assumptions do you have of this woman? Okay, I'm going to give you some questions. These are questions that you really need to answer before we have our discussion. What is ethnocentrism? Think about it. Try to define it in your own words. Give an example of it. Question 5. What is the ability to influence the behavior of others? Look at your textbook, find examples, then apply that to what you know in the real world. What is a commitment to the beliefs and values of your culture? What are your beliefs? What is your culture? Try to answer this. Question 7. What is the process of putting ideas into code? What is code? How do you put ideas into code? Question 8. What is a message that refers to another message? What would you call this? Look at your book. See if you can find a real-life example. What is a view that takes both the speaker and listener roles simultaneously? Okay, you'll need to know what simultaneously means, and what is the speaker role and what is the listener role. Look at your textbook, try to understand it in your own words, and then apply it to a real-life situation. Question 10. What is the tendency to see others and their behaviors through your own cultural filter? What is a filter? What is a tendency? You'll need to know those words. Now go to your book, try to understand this idea, and then again, apply it to a real-life example. Finally, we're at the end. I gave you some questions to think about and try to answer. Do that work in your notebook. That will help prepare you for the other activities that we're going to be doing in this unit. I've divided all the units into modules, and at the end of each module, you will read, recite, and review. I call this 3 R's. So, read the chapter and take notes. Listen to the PowerPoint lecture again. Make sure you can answer the questions at the end of the PowerPoint and chapter. Write these in your notebook. Next, answer the questions on your study guide for the chapter. You'll find this in D2L. Put your study guide in D2L Dropbox before the scheduled chat. No credit for late submissions. This is worth 10 points. Take the practice quiz in Socrative Student and join our room. See D2L News for more information or content for more information. This is a way to participate. It is not a graded assignment. It's a way to practice the material. See the syllabus. Discussion Post 1. Post 1 original post and reply to 2 other replies to student posts. This is 10 points. See the grading rubric in D2L content. Join our chat on Mondays from 6 to 7. Try to make a schedule. If you have a conflict, you need to let me know ahead of time. D2L quiz on Chapter 1. This is 10 points. There will be some easy questions and there will be some hard questions. There will be multiple choice, true, false, and typed answers. Come prepared, come with your notes, and don't forget to submit the quiz. Go through all the steps. Finally, application paper. This is due on Wednesdays. It'll be 1 page long. The instructions will be in D2L content. You'll put this in the Dropbox, and this is 10 points. All the above should help you understand the main points of the chapter and unit. Grades will be based on the above. The total possible points are 50 points. If you have any questions about the above or any confusion, don't hesitate to email me. I will get back to you as soon as I can. Have a great day.